Bosch Fawstin, by his own admission, is a reformed Muslim. He was born to Albanian parents, grew up in the Bronx, uh, and at one point, he decided that it was his life's mission to expose Islam for the destructive philosophy that it is. And been doing that all his life, putting out cartoons of Muhammad and books that savage Islamists. Many of you may remember that there was a Draw Muhammad contest about 10 years ago in Texas, and Bosch won that contest. But at the same time, two jihadists had traveled from out of state to kill everyone involved in the contest. But fortunately, an alert security guard intercepted them, and they died instead. So, Bosch, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to your present position?
Basically, defying what I was raised with from in my mid-teens. I basically decided that Islam was not for me. And it wasn't anything that was actually like terroristic or anything. It was just the fundamental dishonesty of those around me, of the religion itself, of people who try to explain it to you. When you ask them questions, they basically told you, shut up and just listen. And while we were considered quote unquote moderate, Muslims, the misogyny was hardcore. The Jew hatred was hardcore. To the point that even these average everyday Americans living in the Bronx, New York, admired Hitler. Why? Because he killed more Jews than anyone. So it was that kind of poison. Even if you observe it to a limited extent, you're still poisoned by the religion. It doesn't matter if you observe it in any serious way. You're still your humanity is affected in terrible ways. Until, of course, you're in America and you have Jewish friends and you have all kinds of friends, and you start realizing, no, this is all bullshit. And then you realize who Hitler was when you learn in a history class, and he's not this great man that you've been told, and so forth, and so on. So in my mid-teens, I just basically phased out of it. Again, it was not a heartbreak. It was not something that I was like, I'm out of here. I just said, you know what, this is not for me. And then I basically was open to, whatever. And I discovered Ayn Rand's work. Ayn Rand's philosophy, The Fountainhead first, and then Atlas Shrugged and all her nonfiction, fell in love with it. And as I often say, I left a misogynistic Jew-hating religion for a woman of Jewish descent. It's just, I think it's funny. And then I took my love of comics and turned into a career. And I was thinking about directing movies, about singing, about acting, about all this different stuff. And I think it was in my early 20s. I said, what do you really, really want? What do you really love? I said, comic books. That's the thing. And it wasn't just to draw them; it was to write them and draw them. I think Frank Miller had a big influence on me in that aspect, from his Dark Knight to his Daredevil work. And then I slowly went to school. I went to the Joe Kubert School one summer, I remember, and I learned the value of a brush. Because at first I was like, a brush to ink comics? What the hell is that? It's a limp little thing, but man, it's the most beautiful, elegant tool that you could do for inking, from thin to thick at any point. So I learned that, and then went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan for a number of years. I learned as much as I could learn. Even one teacher took me aside at one point. He goes, "Why are you here?" I said, "What?" He goes, "You're good." I said, "Well, I want to be really good. I mean, that's I want to be better and better and better." And then I wanted to go to Marvel and DC, because I love DC superheroes, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Hulk, Captain America, Superman, Batman, all these characters. And I'm in the middle of working on my first graphic novel, Table for One, which ended up being nominated for a Will Eisner Award and also a Russ Manning Most Promising Newcomer Award. And then 9/11 hit. And I was going to school the night before in the School of Visual Arts, and it was raining like hell that night. I do remember that. Next day, see this atrocity. And I knew I would respond. And I said, okay, I have a choice here. Am I going to continue my graphic novel, which takes place in one restaurant, in an underground restaurant in Manhattan, or am I going to take on this enemy to my work? And I said, okay, how about if I continue this project and then study Islam as much as I could? Because again, we were passive Muslims, so we had a Quran in the house, and it was in Arabic. We couldn't read Arabic. So I said, okay, let me get down to the nitty gritty and find out if these guys were actual, true believers, if they were devout Muslims, the guys who flew to planes and towers. And eventually I discovered that they indeed were. And so from there, I started thinking about my background. I said, okay, what's the last thing these guys would want to face? The last thing that they want to face is someone who knows them intimately, and a Muslim, ex-Muslim, who's a big, ruthless, guy who's willing to fight to do whatever it takes, and he wears pigskin leather, as I say, to exploit the Islamic enemy's bigotry. And that's not it sounds like a joke, but it's true. These guys go crazy. They think they lose their shot of getting to paradise if they come in contact with any kind of pig meat. Right. If they ingest it, or if they're around it, if they sit on it. That's why I proposed airlines with pigskin leather seats.
Brilliant idea.
These guys wouldn't care to hijack that. The atrocity of Charlie Hebdo happened January 7, 2015. In March of 2015, some Muslims had a Defend the Prophet conference in the Curtis Caldwell Center in Garland, Texas. Pamela Geller saw that and said, "Wait a minute, you guys are defending the Prophet. You're not defending free speech. You're not defending those who were slaughtered. We're going to have a Muhammad cartoon contest, and we're going to announce the winner at that same place." And we did that a few months later, and I was announced as the winner, as Mike mentioned, and within 20 minutes of my speech, these scumbags, they began shooting outside. And a cop just blew their heads off. Another cop got shot in the ankle. And after that, the Southern Poverty Law Center listed me as a one-man hate group. They weren't concerned about safety of Americans. They weren't concerned about the issue of free speech. They were just concerned about going after those who they thought violated some kind of norm in their perspective, even though we were almost murdered for it. It was 2018, actually, where I got more threats than I've ever gotten in my life, thousands, which I literally turned into books called Peaceful Death Threats. For some reason, I was, And the reason why I call it Peaceful Death Threats is because they threaten me and they tell me how peaceful Islam is at the end of the threat. Right. I know these guys, most of them will not act on it. I know that. I'm wise to this. But if one group is to act on it, it is these guys. So thanks, by the way, Mike. That was a great breakdown. Appreciate it.
Did you move into the Midwest for security reasons?
It was a few years. I went from back east to all the way west to south to a number of places over the years, and it's just better. It's just better for me. So yeah, I could say that, definitely.
How many death threats do you think you've got over the years?
Thousands, literally thousands. I collected the best of them for my books. By best, I mean the ones that don't bore me out of my mind. The ones who are particularly gruesome, particularly personal. Some of them. About raping me and about doing all these terrible things to my family and dogs, and so thousands upon thousands, and I still have enough to have at least 2 or 3 more volumes. I have 2 volumes so far, Peaceful Death Threats, and what I do is I publish all the death threats I got over Muhammad cartoons, and I publish new, fresh Muhammad cartoons on the page with those death threats, and again, people say I'm taunting. Once human beings were slaughtered for John Muhammad, there's no taunting business going on. There's no respect factor going on. When a teacher in France is beheaded for showing his students Muhammad cartoons, it's over. That argument's gone. And that's why I resent anyone on our, in the West who tries to argue that with me about respect. I said, we've far past the point of respect. This is about good and evil. The issue of free speech, which to me is a fundamental issue. It makes the West what it is. Without that, we're not the West. We are not. Look at the countries that don't have the freedom of speech. Hellholes across the world.
Canada.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And now the UK threatening to extradite Americans for writing something on social media that they don't like. It's unacceptable. So what I did in response to that, I drew Muhammad on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and I was talking about the entire issue as I was doing it. To me, it was offensive as hell to presume to extradite Americans to go to the UK and pay a price for writing something that we believe to be true. We're the last stand here in America. We absolutely are, and we have to make sure that it doesn't get away from us, no matter what the scum within are trying to do. Our own government, our own politicians. It's just, to me, it's the issue that makes the issue. It's the issue that makes America. It's the one thing that, again, distinguishes us from everybody else. People always tell us, well, America doesn't have this. Yeah, you could say all that, right? Healthcare, all that BS. Nobody has a First Amendment. Nobody has the Second Amendment. No other country has this. People can say, well, there are variations. You don't. We have enshrined that right. because we're America. And again, the only reason I began to draw Muhammad, I didn't know about the prohibition growing up when I was, a Muslim. I was never talked about it. We just, said, hey, he's a great man. That's it. Until 2005, when the Danish Muhammad cartoons were threatened. And I said, okay, what do you do when you're threatened with this? You draw Muhammad. And that's what I did.
Have you run into any trouble with YouTube or other sites?
Yeah. I was on a show called The Truth in Culture and Politics. And after our 5th episode, having Robert Spencer on, the premier expert on Islam, I drew him battling Muhammad with a sword thing for the cover of the show. And they just nuked our channel. And they also nuked an episode of mine where I discussed the 2020 election. I said it was rigged, and they banned that. Overall, though, I've been pretty good. I mean, I drew Muhammad on this one show that I did. I've been discussing Alex Toth. I have like an 11-part series on the great Alex Toth. I'm probably going to go to 18 episodes. Who knows? But yeah, so far this channel, the one I have currently, is still up. I think I have one maybe strike. I think they called it like a strike, but it's not exactly one. I don't know what they were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I deal with this stuff, and it's just part. Again, I've lost like 20,000, people online, like people who follow me on social media across the years, and then I gained like 40. So, it's just that's just the way it goes. So sometimes they want to censor you more than other times for some reason. Election years, they go a little nuts.
A lot of people watching have no idea who Charlie Hebdo was or what happened there.
True. It's unfortunate and true. And that's why I do appreciate you guys having me on, because, I think people need to know this. There were 13 human beings who were slaughtered for John Muhammad. Unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I mean, it has to be, and again, if all you could do is draw that in defiance, is that asking too much? I guess it is. Because I remember after that happened, politicians from the States and from all over the world went to France, right? And they were walking. They had pens with Charlie Hebdo's name on it, and a T-shirt says, "Je suis Charlie." You're not Charlie Hebdo if you're not John Muhammad. I don't give a damn if you put that pen up in the air. Put the pen on paper, draw Muhammad, and then you can actually say that you're Charlie Hebdo. And I got to say, it pissed me off, because I'm like, who are they, politicians, to lead anyone to anywhere? About this issue of free speech, when they have, condemned Charlie Hebdo over the years. And Charlie Hebdo was, they went after everyone. They were leftists who went after Jews and Christians and Muslims and all those prophets. And they were found unacceptable by the left, though, at a certain point.
Charlie Hebdo was a satirical magazine that featured comics, much like Mad Magazine or Flip City today. Only they dared go where no one else, by exercising free speech, which, as you point out, is the cornerstone of Western civilization, which arguably is the high point, of civilization, and is now in danger of disappearing altogether.
It really is. And, people tell me sometimes, it's over. This issue of free speech is over. It's gone. I say, you're over. If you don't exercise your free speech, it will be over. And if we don't do that, if we don't defend it, it will be over. And that's why I feel like a one-man, wrecking crew in terms of, okay, my fellow cartoonists aren't going to do it. I've drawn them over 600 times now. I have 6 books with Muhammad cartoons. Because all the challenges we have, Ice Bucket Challenge, all these challenges. I wrote a Draw Muhammad challenge to all my fellow cartoonists. I said, guys, this is a deadly serious issue. They're going to come for us. And our own people who are supposed to defend us will not defend us. They won't. That's why people tell me, hey, you shouldn't draw them because your own government won't defend you. I said, to hell with the government. I never expected them to defend me anytime. I was lucky that they defended us to some extent at that attack. But, I try to take care of business. I try to protect myself to the extent that I can. I don't take reckless, stupid things. I don't do that. I don't take chances that are, going to get me killed necessarily, even though Draw Muhammad, to some extent, people say that's enough. Yeah, it is a fundamental issue, not of just our time, of all time. Because if you can't argue, if you can't persuade, if you can't share your ideas, if you can't tell the truth on these platforms, I think we're done. I really, really believe it. And we have to cling on to that with dear life, because, again, it's the thing that makes us us. It is truly the thing that makes us us. Without that, it's like we're gone. I mean, we're gone. And again, we end up like those hellholes that don't have, the issue free speech, who don't recognize it, who don't care for it today. I don't want the world, to get to that point. So in a sense, I'm like, okay, every time I draw Muhammad, I'm trying to, push back that possibility. Of course, I'm one man, I can't do that, but that's the feeling I have. Every time they do something terrible, I just keep drawing them. So
You mentioned Frank Miller, whom we all
Yeah.
admire for his storytelling.
Yeah.
But at one point, he had planned to create a Batman episode where Muslims were the bad guys, and DC said, no, you can't do that. So
Right.
he turned it into a graphic novel called Holy Terror, which was about original figures that he created. And it was the same plot in dialogue, more or less. And that was a watershed moment for Frank because a lot of people reacted negatively and tried to cancel him. And he had a long struggle coming back from that when he went to Hollywood, though. And as far as I know, he's never done anything controversial like that again.
No, he hasn't. And me being a fan of his, I was disappointed, to be blunt. I figured if you're going to take on this issue, go all the way. Go all the way. Don't go half-assed because they're going to come full-assed after you. They're going to try to murder you. So if you're going to take this on, you can't go half-assed. And he did to some extent. He took on Al-Qaeda in a very limited way. He didn't take on the ideology. He didn't take on the full, the beliefs that they take on. Whereas my comic takes on Islam, jihad, our culture, the left helping the Islamic enemy, even some on the right helping them. It deals with the wider issues of this topic. And again, being a fan of his, there were some elements in there that I loved. Like there was one page where there was a suicide bomber who went off, who blew themselves up. And there was pages of these empty little like rectangles to basically say that the humans were wiped out. And to me, brilliant, ingenious, at the same time antiseptic, because this is a brutal attack on human beings. And I don't care for gore necessarily, but I just wish it was a little more impactful in that sense. Again, it was a brilliant way to do it, maybe for the snap, that Thanos does, that would work. But something as brutal as a jihadist with nails and razor blades and those bombs, it lacked the kind of oomph that I would have liked, especially from a guy like Frank Miller, who I've admired for years. And one thing also that I resented about him, I called him out about this as well, is he was a proponent of free speech for decades. Always articles talking about it publicly until 2005, when the Danish Muhammad cartoons, I didn't see him draw Muhammad. I didn't see him go out there and say, we have to do this, guys, And my respect for him dropped a little. I still love him as a cartoonist. I still love The Dark Knight and Daredevil Born Again, Sin City. I do. I think they're a great piece of work. And he had a lot to do with me becoming a cartoonist. But on this issue, it's so important to me that when I see somebody like that fail on that level, and then also in an interview, he goes, I don't know squat about Islam. Why not, Frank? Why not? If you can take this on, why didn't you study? You busted your ass to study about the 300. I mean, you went to Thermopylae, you went to Greece, you went to everything, you went to those areas. You actually were there and you studied it. Why not study Islam to that extent? And that's why, I think a big part of why I do what I do is because of my background. I assumed at a certain point that I'm going to see figures like Wild Boar Man going after jihadists, something,
Right.
Hogman. And when that didn't happen, I was like, wow, I'm actually shocked. I assumed that kind of atrocity would galvanize the industry. And it didn't. The closest we got, besides Miller, was Captain America fighting some pseudo jihadists, but he was apologetic to them because they said, what you guys did, America, and Captain America apologizing, bullshit. It's a stupid writer doing his idiocy. And also Marvel allowed that to happen. After that was they created not anti-jihad superheroes, they created Muslim superheroes. From Miss Marvel to Night Runner, which is why I ended up on the Daily Show 2011 when I mocked Batman taking on a Muslim counterpart in France. They had me on to mock me, and I was there to promote Pigman, and it worked. It was like 1 million people who saw. It was the first time I think people ever saw Pigman, which was great. And then also they ambushed me. It was supposed to be one leftist correspondent there, and they shoved in a liberal Muslim who was on their staff to interview me. And the person I was with said, "Do you want to leave?" I said, "Hell no." I said, "I'm I'm going to enjoy this thing. It was a 3-hour shoot, ended up being 3 minutes. And the one thing that they, I think, resented was the fact that I was a good sport, because what they did was they had this little skit at the end where they had me telling the guy, the Muslim, who was in blindfold, like the old Batman TV show, where he was driving, telling me where my pig cave is. I thought that was funny. I got a kick out of that. And they cut that. They cut that because, again, it's like, this guy's too reasonable and too much of a good sport. We have to vilify him, right? And one thing they did do, though, is they mentioned the fact that I have a Muslim background, which I was surprised. I'm surprised they kept that in, because it gives me little credibility, a little to know what I'm saying. And then the Muslim correspondent, after it was all said and done, he took me aside. He goes, "Come on, man. Jihad has nothing to do with Islam." I said, "You know that's not true. You know that's not true. Don't tell me." I'm saying, "You know this. I know this." And it was pretty funny. So he wanted to argue about that, and I said, "No, there's no argument here. We both know the truth, and I'm willing to say it, and you're not." So,
what do you think when you see a bunch of gays dressed in rainbow colors holding signs that say "Gays for Palestine"?
I mean, I get sick of it. I really do. It makes me ill, and makes me laugh as well, because it's so sickening. But growing up, as a Muslim, forget about it. The insults to gays and everything, also even to each other. It's like the worst thing you can call someone. Hey, you fag. Hey, this and that. Then you got the massacre in the Pulse nightclub, the horrific massacre, 59 people slaughtered by a Muslim, right? And what did they do? They put a lid on that as quick as they possibly could. And it's interesting you mentioned that, Mike, because IDW and DC had I guess, a benefit book, right, after that massacre, that was called Love is Love. And I contacted Mark Chirillo, who has always tolerated me. I got to say, whatever he believes, he's always been kind, always responds to me. So I said, Mark, I said, please, at least let me have one page. I know you guys are going to talk about the thing that's not the issue. It's not about love is love. It's about hate is hate. And at least give me one page to recognize that, to recognize those who were slaughtered because of this hate. Give me one page. I'm not going to go. Don't worry. I won't draw Muhammad, but I want to draw something to acknowledge that horror. And he said, "Okay, Bosch, I'll see. I'll just forward it to them." Whether he did or not, I just had to have my say, because again, that's not the issue about being gay in America. It's not just allowed, quote unquote allowed. It's celebrated. Overly so, to the point of being ridiculous. It's like, if you're not gay now, it's considered off. Again, who gives a shit what anyone does in privacy of their home? I don't think you guys do. I don't care at all. It's a private matter. It's not our issue. It's not a social issue. It's not a societal issue.
We have Memorial Day, and we have Pride Month.
Yes, we do. And again, I don't give a shit to the point where I don't care what you do, but I'm sure as hell I'm not going to celebrate it. And I have gay friends, I'm like, they know that, and they respect that, and they don't try to push it on me or anything. And that's just life, I don't care what you do. I don't, but I'm not going to, applaud you for doing it either. We have the freedom to be what we want, as long as we don't hurt others. But once they cross the line, though, into the children, of shoving this down the throats of children, that's when they cross the line. And that's when I think Americans were fed up. And also one thing, it's not a gay movement. It's a communist movement that's wrapped with the rainbow. It's the only true colors on that flag are red with a little tinge of yellow for that communist flag. They don't celebrate non-leftist homosexuals. They don't do that. If you're black and a communist, then they accept you. If you're female and communist, they accept you. The feminist movement, they never celebrate Ayn Rand. Now, Ayn Rand, basically took a male-dominated field and went there and just, had a philosophy. I remember this one group, she was with all these philosophers. Every single last one was a man, except her. And they don't celebrate her. Because why? Because she's not a leftist. And not only that, she was a champion against collectivism, against their ideas. And that's why they condemned her. But yeah, it's a communist movement, and they wrap it with that for votes. As simple as that. It's for getting the gay vote. It's not about individual rights. They don't care about gay marriage. If we can get them a vote, great. Period.
I've read some of the different popular books they have, telling them how to push it. on
Yes.
other people, and it's very militant, very shove it down your throat. I was kind of encouraged that a lot of honest gay writers and artists were saying, we in the beginning we were fighting for representation. If you look at TV, if you look at all these other
Overly,
things, is that we're overly represented.
100%.
It's distorting reality, and
Absolutely. And what they're doing also, they're trying to, and this is my contention, and you guys, they're trying to create gays where there were none. They're trying to go to those kids and try to make, not just normalize it, but try to say, hey, you're confused, man. You don't know what you are. They want to, basically get their numbers up. It's sickening, but this is what they're doing. They're confusing the hell out of these children. These children, they don't know anything about this. They don't want to know anything about it. I didn't when I was a kid. I was like, hey, I got my comics now, that's it until a certain age. They're shoving this shit in the face of children in order for parents to be forced to have that conversation and to possibly, hopefully from their perspective, create more numbers for them. That's it. Because when you see the numbers of the, people who identify as gay, they've shot up to the stratosphere. That's unnatural. That's just not true.
Don't you think that's part of what the transgender movement is about?
Yeah, sure. No doubt about it. They're nihilists. What it comes down to, they're not about rights and not about good and not about, they're nihilists. They want to, again, destroy what is, destroy what has been.
So much of this is fueled by resentment, envy, and malice. In fact, I think those are really the characteristics of the whole leftist movement, but they
I
won't
believe
admit it.
100%. They can't, because that's just too ugly to admit,
I know.
They
And they wrap it in
rap,
in
absolutely, but it is malice. Absolutely. It's irrational. It is nihilism. These are bad people looking to do real bad things. And there's something on the right about Kitty Pryde being like gay now. Kitty Pryde's been a character for 40 to 50 years. I guess her name, Pride. You want to emphasize that? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous to me. It's like she's been straight for decades. She was a teenager, and it's disheartening because, again, they had these gay characters. If you notice, also this one aspect of the left, right? They have canceled gay characters, black characters, female characters, right? But they can't cancel all the way Miss Marvel, their Muslim superhero. They can't quite do that because they're afraid. They're like, shit, we can cancel all these other ones, but this Muslim, we got to keep bringing it back. She's a parasitic character created by a parasite from a Muslim editor who was there 12 years ago. She goes, I want a Muslim character. And they said, okay. Not an anti-jihad superhero, a Muslim character to promote Islam. That's what they wanted. And again, the only reason why we discussed Islam is what? Jihad, right?
That's right. And you never cease to point that out.
It's just, to me, it's worth pointing out repeatedly, because again, that's the only reason why I reconsidered, going back to study Islam. And so what happens is that they create this Muslim superhero, not to fight jihad, not even to have her fight those who quote unquote pervert Islam, like the jihadists, right? It's like, okay, at least to that level, they would never, ever do that. So she's just a sweetheart of a girl. Her family's great. They're all Muslim, right? They're all true believing Muslims in New Jersey. And it's sickening because it's pure enemy propaganda for a foreign enemy by a domestic enemy. That's what it is. And she has nothing to do with Islam. She's not Muslim in any way.
Yeah.
I think she dates guys, American kids. Nah, not in my household. Absolutely not. My sister couldn't go anywhere alone, so.
Yeah. I only watched about half of her series, but I'm pretty sure in the first or second episode, they showed her with a gay friend too. And it's like, that's not going to happen.
It's not. And it won't. And again, if it happens outside of Islam, meaning if you're real lax Muslim to that point where you eat pork. I've known cousins who eat pork, have dogs, treat their wife with respect. It's like, good. They're good guys. But don't pretend they're Muslim. But they do pretend they're Muslim, So it's like, there's nothing about them that's Muslim. Nothing about Miss Marvel that's Muslim at all. It's not about, people say, that young actress. I said, I don't give a damn for the actress, good or bad. It's not there. It's what they're trying to do. They're trying to shove this down our throat. Yeah. And there was one scene I saw where also there's some bad guys that go to the Muslim family's house, right? And the wife protects her male Muslim husband.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, first of all. And it's ridiculous. I mean, things like that. It's like, you guys are I guess making quote unquote progressive Muslims here, which don't exist. It's preposterous. It really is preposterous.
Have you done anything with the even in a different way, but the idea of the hate is hate?
I haven't. I just wanted it to be in that book because I thought it was important to at least have one page of truth about what's happening.
Yeah.
Because again, it was about homosexuals. It wasn't about loving love and 11. No, we know that. We do. Again, America is the freest country in the world when it comes to that. There's no need for gay parades. They can do that anytime they want when they walk down the street. I mean, they can, there's no need to over celebrate it. So no, I didn't. But I guess, if you mention it, it's like, why not? I might do something like that. Just say this should have been in that book. It was such an atrocity, such an evil, disgusting thing that happened that I figured at least, please just give me one page to tell the truth. And again, I wouldn't have to draw Muhammad, just to say something about that guy and what he thought and what Islam thinks about homosexuals and put it in there. And just put hate is hate. Put love is love and put hate is hate over it, because that's what it was about. It was not about loving homosexuals, not about homosexuals loving each other. It was about this evil scumbag going into a gay club and slaughtering them, wantonly. And then his parents, knowing a little about it, I don't know if you know about that, they knew a little about the possibility. They're not going to be, called on the carpet at all. They're going to be respected as, oh, they lost their son. No, it's a horrific thing that happened. I don't give a shit if you don't even care about gays. It's a horrific thing that happened, and it should have some kind of honest, reaction to it. Instead, they got this bullshit about we can love each other. Yeah, we know that. We know that, guys. And you don't know that that bastard hated them enough to slaughter them in the name of Islam. You don't know that. So thanks, because I might even consider doing that.
Your theory why popular entertainment is afraid to show Islam in a negative light comes down to the fact that they don't want to be murdered, right?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's true. As simple as that. I mean, I got friends that say, look, man, I don't want to get my head cut off. I'm like, well, I've been drawing this for 19 years. I've been drawing Muhammad for 19 years. I'm still here. Now, again, I'm not a reckless idiot. I don't go out there and go into mosques and say, hey, I'm drawing Muhammad. Whether you like guys like or not, I don't go to the Kaaba, to Saudi Arabia and try to draw Muhammad there.
Unlike what Muslims do to Jewish temples all the time in the United States.
Absolutely right. They do that. It's a one-way street with them, They can go run roughshod over all your ideas and your religion, but if you even say one word against them, whether true or not, it doesn't matter to them, then they go after you. So yeah, it's as simple as that. They don't want their heads cut off. And again, I tell people, I say, look, 19 years I've been drawing this. I almost died once. Outside of that, thousands of death threats. I'm still here. I'm still here. You can do it. Just don't be stupid, but you can do it. Because again, if there's one flashpoint for free speech, I think is drawing Muhammad. Whatever else people can say, they can say whatever they want, any words, any insults. But it happens to be that's the one thing that they just, I can't support that. And then they even tell me, well, that's not free speech. Muslims and leftists tell me. I'm like, how? How is that not free speech? Because it's hate speech. I said, there's no such thing. There's speech. That's it. Whether you love it, hate it, or indifferent to it, it's just speech. I argue against that. It's like when I say, I don't know about these certain things. When you want to condemn, America, right? They say, oh, that's free speech. When you condemn Islam, that's hate speech. It's like, if that's hate speech, then that's hate speech. If by your standard, if that's the case. So it's I don't know, but yeah, it's as simple as that. It's not a death sentence. You won't necessarily be killed. You can. It might happen. I mean, the first talk I did, it was two guys, armed, left and right of me. They were armed. And that's what you got to do. You can't be stupid. Again, if I do a talk, it's going to be security. It will have some kind of, I guess, just safety, because these guys will try to murder me.
Weren't they Western inductees, though? They weren't Arabs. The ones that came to kill everybody at the...
there was one guy, I think one was Arab and one was a black guy. They were both Muslim. One was a convert, I believe. And they drove in from Arizona. And then, unfortunately, I found out a year later that the FBI was involved to some extent, because it was transcripts by the third jihadist in North Carolina, right? And you found out that there was an FBI agent driving, egging them on, telling them, tear up Texas. He was driving in the car in front of them, drove off as soon as they began to shoot. He was arrested, right? Because he was wearing Islamic garb. They figured he's part of it. What happened there? I don't know. I went to FBI headquarters. I said, guys, I need to know this. You got to tell me here. I couldn't get anything out of them. I guess I was presumptuous to even do that, but I wanted to know because I'm like, you guys, you were going to let us die. You knew these guys were coming for us. You egged them on, and you were going to let us die. I said, what's going on here? You guys are supposed to protect us. And it pissed me the hell off. It was
That's an untold story that deserves to be told.
And to this day, zero, nothing. They had I think one of the cop who was shot in the ankle on that day tried to sue the FBI, and I think his case was basically dismissed, unfortunately. The judge in that case, bought and sold, and that judge.
And that has a lot to do with, like you're saying, about free speech. We're basically, in my opinion, I think if we lose X and Rumble,
yeah, absolutely,
we don't have much more free speech to lose except for face to face.
100%. They're essential right now. X, whatever anyone has, criticisms against Elon, this guy has made a big difference. The stuff that I'm able to post, I post my own cartoons now regularly. I got some pushback a year ago. I was punished for like 24 hours. I was locked out of my account. I was this and that. But overall, now it seems like I'm able to post whatever I want. And again, I don't post obscene things. I don't draw Muhammad in any obscene way. I don't care for that stuff. I really don't. I tell people ask me, they want to pay me, hey, draw Muhammad doing this. I said, I really don't do that. You're a pussy. I'm like, okay. You can say that, but and I need the money, but it's like, I don't want to really do that. I just don't. And I say, you can do that. And anyone else can do that. You have the freedom to do that. So I really appreciate it. And also Rumble exactly as an alternative to YouTube, which, really cracks down. Oh, yeah. And I hope I can retain my channel. I really do. I'm trying to grow it, but who knows? Who knows? These guys are coming after us. On every level. They want to control us. And if they control our speech, then they got us. Really. They have us. It's like with the healthcare thing, I remember I did this cartoon that Michael Savage actually mentioned on his show years ago. It was Obama as Dirty Barry, him saying, I got your health. Now give me your guns. That's next. And then free speech. And that's what they want. They want your health. They want your speech. They want your guns. They want your right to self-defense. And, to me, the issue of it's not necessarily it's the issue of fundamental right of self-defense. That's what the issue of the Second Amendment is. It's not about guns per se. It's about your right to defend your life if some bastard will come and try to take it or hurt you.
And therein lies the genius of the founding fathers, who said that our rights do not come from a government, but they come from God, and they're innate to our humanity.
Absolutely.
And that's what drives the left insane. And I would say that 90% of Congress, and certainly 98% of Democrats, have never read the Constitution.
No, and they swear on it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they swear on it, all right.
Yeah.
New York Times the old day, it's dangerous. The Constitution is dangerous. We got to be careful here.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And it's the basis of our success. It's the reason the United States is the most successful country in history, the wealthiest country in history, and 100%. Why everybody is fighting to get in here.
Absolutely.
There's a little saying that says hard times breed tough men. Yeah. Tough men create good times, and good times create weak men, and that's where we're at.
And that's the difference that makes a difference also, the Constitution and those amendments that we had. Without those, we're in deep shit. And we still have those, and they're trying to snuff them out. The left has been trying to do that. And the right hasn't given enough of a battle,
No.
For them. They haven't. So that's why they made some inroads into the First Amendment and Second Amendment. This idea, again, that these guys are not communists unless they say, I am a communist on their T-shirts, right? Or get a tattoo on their forehead. I'm a communist, that we can't call it communists. Of course they are. That's what they are. Like even some talk show hosts, these liberals. Yeah. These guys, these communists are liberals. That language has to stop. It has to end. These are leftists. These are progressives. These are communists.
It was a few months ago. I'm sure you probably saw this or heard about it. But when they had to ban child sex dolls in Arizona.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, yeah, they
Huh.
had to ban the sale of it in their state. Pedophilia is the next, hill that they're
Yeah,
gonna.
I
They're
know.
already trying to make it normal.
They absolutely are. MAPS, right? They call it MAPS, right?
Yeah,
LGBTQR plus. What's that
yeah,
plus? That plus is let's go
yeah,
further. It's evil. I mean, once you cross the line into children,
right.
now they can do what they want to each other. Absolutely. You want to hurt each other even to some extent sexually, whatever, man. You guys got your own thing going on. Once they cross the line, once Disney did that, once Marvel did this, and once they have these sexual books like in libraries. You see these horrific books
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
it's just, to me, it should be seen as pornography
yeah,
and legal in these children's books. It should be seen as that, and it should be punished as that. There's no way that kids should be exposed to that at all. They're not sexual beings. They are pre-sexual. They don't know about this stuff, and we don't want them to know until it's time, until we think it's time, as parents, as adults, until we think. So yeah, 100% they're trying to go for it, and they're trying to, they don't, but they're stuck. They're like, how the hell do we get this, man?
yeah,
It's such a tough thing, but we're going to do it. But because they've been working on it for a while now,
oh
but they
yeah,
just don't know how to absolutely get away with it because they know they can't. So like, shit, we have to corrupt America to the point of it becomes where people don't give a damn. I think that's what their dream is, where people don't care anymore. And as long as you have parents, as long as you have decent people in this country, they can't get away with it, especially when it comes to their children.
That's why communists have always targeted the nuclear family.
They're on the march. They're on the march in a way that we haven't seen before. They've made inroads to the point where it's almost impossible 20 years ago what we see today. If
oh
we
yeah,
started 20 years ago, we're like, impossible. America? No, impossible. Here we are. We want to live our lives. We want to be positive. We want to make a difference and all that. And we try, but God damn it. You look at some of the stuff going on, it's like, holy shit, are we going to make it? And again, those who are supposed to fight on our behalf aren't doing a great job of it, whether it's politicians or pundits or whatnot, they're not. That's why I'm very limited in my consumption of these programs, very, very limited. I try to get people who are consistently honest, regardless if they end up being wrong in certain things, but if they're honest, at least that's someone that you can listen to. And even artists, right? If you're not an honest artist, you're going to have shit work. Your work's going to suck. It just will.
yeah.
Honest artists are the best artists. I mean, really are. They got a lot to say, and they can say it well.
Is the best place to get your stuff your website?
Yeah, BoschFawstin.com. That's what I have. BoschFawstin.com. Two of my blogs got nuked by Google. My store got nuked after years. A 14-year blog with thousands of articles and cartoons got nuked. I haven't been able to get some of it. Unfortunately, they have the Wayback Machine, but it's only a few
Right.
things. That sucks because I guess I should have anticipated it, but whatever. It is what it is.
You don't expect this to happen in this country.
Yeah, you don't, and that's the whole thing. Again, they're counting on our optimism as well as Americans. Like, oh, that wouldn't happen here, but here we are. Here we are. I'm dealing with stuff that I never would have thought that I'm dealing with. And so BoschFawstin.com. I have all my books. I have 6 books. I have 4 comics so far. Pigman 3 issues. Table for One. My first graphic novel. I have Muhammad playing cards, trading cards. I have hundreds of prints. I have thousands of political cartoons, which I'm going to collect in a book at a certain point that I did for David Horowitz's Freedom Center for 14 years. I was able to do it. I even have a t-shirt store, Teespring, my store, the Fawstin store at Teespring, if you're interested. And this is a Pigman. This is my pigskin-clad superhero who exploits the Islamic enemy's bigotry, as I say. Ex-Muslim.
And it definitely has a lot of Frank Miller flair to it.
100%. He's a big, brawling guy. He's ruthless, goes after the guys. And clearly, even I think Dana Greenfield said this is the closest thing we have to, Frank Miller's Dark Knight. And I do have not only all the media guys, right? He had talking heads. I have Twitter, Facebook. I have all the social media as well. So, within a future context, and it's fun. And I get best of both worlds because the story is not just about Pigman. Pigman was my idea to face jihad, and after a while, I was like, "Is that enough for me? Is that enough?" I said, "I don't think so. How about if I step back a little and say, okay, how about if I split myself in two? I'm a born again Muslim and a recovered Muslim, which is what I am, and have them battle it out in the story as well, and have one of them create Pigman within the comic book. So it's like a comic book within a comic book. So it's twin brothers, redhead, Albanian Muslim background, like me, and it's their battle echoed by the extreme battle of Pigman and Super Jihad. But yeah, so Pigman, big brutal guy, and this is when he sees Osama bin Laden. He turns around and he goes, "You," and you see the light of his eyes. And Osama bin Laden's first reaction is to basically put a gun to his head and say, "I'll shoot. I swear, I'll shoot. Don't touch me." As if he's going to protect him from being killed. So I have fun in there. He roasts the jihadists sometimes before he kills them. But it's brutal. It's there's some things in there, and issue 3 ended up in a cliffhanger that is it's bad news for the heroes. Let me just say that, and hopefully they can make it out of it. But we'll see.
I think we're living in issue 3 right now.
Yes, we are. It's we are. We've been on that way for a while now, a number of years, and it hasn't been able to get back up. It's like, okay, because we assume we'll get back normal, right?
Right.
I don't think so. As long as they seize these things, I call it. I said, it is a systemic leftism that's our greatest problem. That's our greatest problem. They have, seized our course. They have seized our media. They've seized our entertainment. Every aspect they've seized, and and again, the right was so stupid about this cultural aspect of war that they allowed it to happen. They couldn't fight it on equal ground in any way, in any effective way, culturally speaking. And that's where I think we're going to have to start, because we have to fight back against this. And and that's why I think like Comicsgate is deadly important to cartoonists who have been canceled, who have been put aside. It's guys who are willing to take the hits. Have me on there. I've Ethan Van Sciver had a auction stream, and I was showing my cartoons. And at a certain point, he goes, "Okay, Bosch, what else you got?" Almost bracing himself, And I appreciate the hell of it, because it's like that takes balls. And you guys, thanks for having me on here. I mean, I always appreciate anyone who has, because again, the heat you guys might take, I don't know.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not much.
Thank you, Bosch. That's very enlightening. I hope that you get some more eyes on your material for this.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me speak.